Okay, so we have all of our rules indicated here. So now we're going to create our rule table. So we're going to go to AccuMark Explorer. We're going to navigate to our folder, wherever we're working. And we're going to go ahead and go to Process. Okay. Under Pattern Design, so we've worked in Pattern Design here. We'll be working in marking and ordering. There is a tool that's just called Grade Rule. If you click on Grade Rule, it will open up a new grade rule table that will be blank. So when this opens up, there's two tabs. The first tab is where you fill out your information. This determines your base size, your size range, so that when you add the rule table to a pattern, it automatically will get the base size and the size range applied to it, regardless of if you've graded it or not. And then the second tab is where you actually enter your rules. Okay, we can't go there till we enter something here. So in the comments section, I like to just put in what this is. So I'm going to say alpha men's T grade. Okay. The next thing you do is pick whether this is a numeric or an alphanumeric. Okay, so if this is going to be an alpha sizing, so I'm going to choose alphanumeric. And then I enter my base size. So for today, according to my spec, my base size is medium. And then I enter my smallest size. So my smallest size is extra small. And then I enter my next size break. So I'm going to choose S, M, L, extra L. So even though you've put your base size here, you still have to enter it over here so it knows what order your sizes go in. Just to note, if you do choose a numeric size, it will ask you for a size step. So this means like if it's a Missy sizing and it's 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, your size step is 2. It's the number between the number sizes. If it's waist sizing, jeans, 27, 28, 29, 30, the size step is 1. Okay, meaning there's one number between each size. So just know that if you're doing numeric, you have to enter that as well. Okay. So then now this is here. I'm going to go ahead and save this. Okay, and it's going to save as because it doesn't actually have, if you notice, it doesn't have a name yet and it doesn't have a storage area yet. So make sure you're in the storage area you want to be in. Okay, and you can go ahead and name this your initials. So I like to keep all of the naming the same. You see my students here have named their rule tables as the assignment number, okay? Which means when we've done a full assignment, you will have a model with the 2402, a rule table with the 2402, and then when we get into marking, and you'll have an order with 2402 and a marker with 2402. So it's okay that the names are the same because the file types are different, okay? So I already have a 2402 here, so I'm just going to call this demo, but you should name this as your model, okay? All right, so what happens, I just want to show you what happens in AccuMark Explorer is you're going to end up with, so you see here, for example, I have a model that's called LEL2402. I have a rule table. See right here, file type, rule table 2402. I then have an order that's 2402, and I have a marker. I have 2 markers that are 2402. Okay, so as we build on these patterns, keeping the names the same is going to really help you keep track of everything. It's also going to help me with grading. Okay, so let's go back to our rule table. So now that this is filled out, I can go to my rules tab. And you'll see it starts with just one entry. Sorry. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in our rule numbers here. And in the comment section, we're going to go ahead and add where that location on the pattern is. This will just help us if we're editing our rule table. Even though we have our schematic, it's still good to know. Sometimes we can have like a slight misalignment of our rule table and our schematic. And so the description here will help us kind of match up the two and make sure everything looks okay. So I'm going to go ahead and enter one. As I enter rule numbers and click enter or just click, it will open up a new rule for me. So I think on my schematic I had 14 rules. So I'm going to go ahead and add all of the, maybe it was 13. 9, 10. Okay, you may have to scroll. 12, 13, let's see, 14. Okay, so now I have 14 rules. All right. And what I'm going to do is, for one, I'm going to say hold. My hold is always 0, 0, 0, 0. My 2 is going to be center front neck drop, right? So I'm looking at my schematic as I do this. Center front neck drop, okay? This one will be, 3 will be high point shoulder. So let's see if I can do this again. Okay, so I've got center front neck drop. This is high point shoulder. This is shoulder width. This is cross front, cross back. This is bust. This is sweep at side seam. Okay. 8 is sweep at center front, center back. 9 is back neck drop. 10 is sleeve cap. 11 is bicep. I'm going to say top because that's how my sleeve is oriented, bottom. So it's not, I'm not talking about an actual sleeve, I'm talking about the way it's oriented on my screen, right? Sleeve opening top, sleeve opening bottom. Okay? So I've got my descriptions in there. Now I can take these movements that we determined together on our schematic and I can start entering them. Okay? So for example, my 2 rule has no Y movement, so my Y will remain 0. My X movement is going to be minus a quarter, positive a quarter, positive a quarter. Now, before we get too far in this, I want to go ahead and just remind you all, my grade method right here is base, up, down, incremental. This way I'm entering my grade movements only works if I'm in grade method, base, up, down, incremental. The way to change your grade movements or your grade method, in PDS, go to grade tab, size line, grade options. You have 3 options. Small to large incremental is going to go straight from your smallest to your largest size. So this would essentially negate the need for the positives and negatives. However, I like for you all to learn the logic of the positives and negatives because that's the natural way of grading, is from the base size out both ways, down and up and down. Okay. Base, up, down, cumulative is the same as what we're using, except instead of entering the movement between sizes, so half, 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 it would grow. So it would be a half for the first size, then an inch for the second size, then an inch and a half for the third size. Okay, so it's the cumulation of the grade movement per size. So cumulative is really the difference between the size that you're entering grade for and the base size, whereas incremental is the distance between each size, okay, regardless of where the base size is. So these movements that we're entering are only going to work for base, up, down, incremental. If you try to use a different grade method and enter these movements, your graded nest is going to look real funky, and you'll know. I had some students that had this issue in class, and it was evident because some of the sizes on the nest actually weren't even visible. Okay. So please, please, please just make sure that you're in base, up, down, incremental. Okay. So for my high point shoulder grade, my X movement is 3/8, 3/8, 3/8. So I'm going to do minus 0.375, minus 0.375, positive 0.375, positive 0.375. I'm going to save this. I want to go to View, Preferences, and change my my decimal places to 3 decimal places so I can really actually see the full grade. Might I also remind you that you need to be in imperial, make sure you're not in metric. If you change any of these things, the grade method, the units of measure, after you've entered measurements, it will alter your entered measurements to match the new options, the new settings, okay? So it's really important that your settings are set before you start entering measurements, okay? So in my Y, I'm going to be moving 1/8 of an inch, and my smaller sizes are going to be negative, and my larger sizes are going to be positive, okay? Then I'm going to move to my shoulder width. Oh, I forgot to put an X movement in my shoulder width. It will be the same as my high point shoulder because I want my shoulders to remain, my shoulder seams to remain parallel, okay? But remember, we got this 3/8 from taking the body length and dividing the grade movement by 2. Okay, so my X movement, I can copy. So anything that's the same, you can actually highlight, Control C, Control V, and it will highlight the whole row for you, or copy the whole row for you, okay? My Y movement is actually the same as my X movement, so I'm actually just gonna copy that here as well, okay? So I've got the 3/8 and the 3/8. For my cross front, cross back, my X movement is gonna be 0. So that means this line is not gonna move in the X direction, which means the distance from high point shoulder to my across front, across back is going to grade, okay? So some cases we may not want to grade placements, and some cases we do. So in this case, we are going to grade the placement, which means this line is not going to move in the X direction. So my X stays 0, and my Y gets the same Y as my shoulder width, okay? And then my bust is gonna go there. So my bust has no X movement. My Y movement is gonna be minus 0.375, minus 0.5, positive 0.375, positive 0.375. I'm gonna take this Y movement and I'm going to paste it into my sweep as well, right? Same thing there. But my sweep also has an X movement. So my X movement here is positive 3/8 and then negative 3/8 for my bigger sizes, okay? I'm going to take that same X movement and I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it into my sweep at center front, center back. And there's no Y movement here because this is where my stacking point is, okay? All right, so I'm all the way up to rule 8. So if I go over to rule 9, I have 0 Y movements, and in my X movement, I have a negative 1/8, negative 1/8, positive 1/8, positive 1/8. Oh, that's not right, is it? So I think I forgot to put this here. So sorry, I think I missed this on the last thing, so I hope you're still watching. The 3/8 was my high point shoulder grade in the X direction. It looks like I just didn't finish this here in the X, okay? And then for the back neck drop, we had no grade, okay? So we actually want it to grade the exact same movement as our high point shoulder. So that way the distance, the difference between the vertical distance between this point and this point, if they're moving the same, is 0, okay? So that is what I want. So I'm going to take that X movement at the high point shoulder and I'm going to paste it into my 9X rule, okay? And then I have no Y movement here. Okay, sorry I missed that on the last one. So now if I move into my sleeve, my 10 rule is going to have negative eighth, negative eighth, positive eighth, positive eighth with no y movements. My bicep top is going to have